Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I used to be the bouncer at the Dewdrop Inn. Oh, now I was only the bouncer at the Dewdrop Inn once a year. It's a small country western bar that plays rap music and serves only Coke and water. It has a different location every year. The most notorious patron of the Dewdrop Inn is Joe Boo Smith. And Joe usually looks different from year to year. And sometimes he even has a different alias. But no matter what he looks like and what you choose to call him, it really boils down to the original role of Joe Boo Smith. The Dewdrop Inn is only open one night a year. And that usually coincides with Police Academy SWAT Week. Yeah, see, the local police academy gets taken over by the SWAT team. And the tactical guys come in and teach a variety of classes to the cadets. The classes usually include use of cover and concealment, downed officer retrieval, officer-involved hostage, felony vehicle stops, building clearing, and of course, crimes in progress. Crimes in progress is on the last night. The cadets are paired up and they are dispatched to scenarios. We bring in some of our dispatchers. We reserve a radio channel, and the cadets actually have to get on the radio and talk shop. They use their 10 codes. They check in, they check out, and they learn what it's like to actually respond to a real call under some controlled circumstances. One of those problems is you have to go to the Dewdrop Inn and serve a felony warrant on Joe Boo Smith. Upon arrival, they get out of the car and they approach the club, and the first person they meet is me. I like to wear a do-rag and some wraparound sunglasses, an oversized T-shirt, usually have something obnoxious written on the front of it, maybe something trying to be intimidating. Maybe it says, "I love violence." Maybe it's a tap-out shirt. Our job is not to make the cadets fail, but merely to watch how they respond under stress and under pressure and evaluate their actions. Now, if they handle the scenario well, we cooperate. But if they make blatant mistakes, if they do dumb things, if they do bonehead mistakes, it's very quickly for the wheels to fall off, and the whole thing ends up looking like a chapter straight out of the book, Fiascos, Debacles, and Worst Case Scenarios by Wile E. Coyote, forwarded by Murphy. The cadets essentially can make three critical mistakes. The first is to get emotional. As they approach, we insult, we insinuate. We challenge and we posture. We jeer, we frustrate, we fail to cooperate. If the young men and women respond to this and get into a pride posture, they typically go into an area or into a scenario half-cocked without ever realizing the actual danger they've gotten themselves into. I think a police officer has full legal rights to enter any establishment with a liquor license. But if I can get them to compromise that authority, if I tell them they can't go in unless there's a $5 cover charge, if they pay it, and some of them actually have paid, they've just compromised whose authority they're operating under. If we ever go into life and compromise the fact that we have authority to do what we do, about our individual freedoms, the power of personal choice, the power of self-efficacy, if we compromise that authority, we're already well behind the curve. We try to get them to go in under their own power, the power that they're vested in, and when they compromise that power and go in under their own power, they're very, very vulnerable. The second mistake we try to make them to do is to get distracted. We try to distract them from their main objective. They have arrived to arrest a felon. They've been told he's possibly an armed felon. But often as they go through the crowd, they end up breaking up fights, settling stupid arguments, cuffing obnoxious drunks, or dealing with minor issues when there's an armed felon in the room. The third mistake is the classic divide and conquer. If we can get them separated from their partner, if we can get them to refuse to call backup, if we can get them to try to do this thing on their own, they are doomed to failure. I remember distinctly one young man, half my age, twice my size, very muscled up. I just simply challenged him and said, "Well, if you think you can get past me, you can go right in." Well, he was more than up to the challenge, but I wanted him to go in. I wanted him to blow past me, and when the door closed and locked behind him, He left his partner outside on the porch in the dark with little old me. I apologized to his partner for his partner leaving him alone in the dark with me. Now, the cadets are at a disadvantage. They know that they're playing with role players. They are hesitant to lay hands on us. They're especially hesitant to lay hands on me. I'm a middle-aged man and a police chaplain. I'm not even an actual police officer. But that's part of the lesson. When you're working, it's always serious, and it's always potentially dangerous. The lessons are the same even when they become veteran cops. The lessons are the same when a veteran cop enters the danger zone. You got to control your emotions. Don't get distracted, and don't get separated. Emotion, distraction, and separation are the killers. When Christians go into the world, it's the same thing. The devil gets us emotional about cars, about houses, titles, jobs, pride, position. And once we get attached to those things, once those things become our identity, and once we begin to be affected by them, then distraction takes place. We forget what we came for. We forget who sent us. We forget what we're about to do. Once we set our minds on earthly things, it's pretty much over. If I could place an importance on one of the 3 traps that we set for the cadets at the Dewdrop Inn, I would probably rank separation the most deadly. As a church, we're a body. As a people, we are one. One of the primary emphasis in Scripture is that the cross of Christ represents a plus sign. The plus sign of the universe. It was to bring God and people together and people together. Many, many times the apostles writing to the church will say, drop the titles. You're not Jew or Greek or slave or free, barbarian or Scythian. There's only one identity. But if we can separate people, if we can separate people from each other, we can separate a body part from the body. The part that is separated dies and it hurts the body. If we separate from each other, if we allow our emotions, our pride, our anger, our selfishness, our prejudice, if we allow that to separate us from one another, then we are at risk of falling. We're at risk of failing. We fail in our mission. We forget who sent us. We forget why we've been sent there. And the mistake that we make the cadets understand is if you go into this scenario and you make a fatal mistake, and we try to tell the cadets, your job is always to go home at the end of the night. Your job is to return to the station. Well, if we get distracted and we forget who sent us, we forget where we've been sent from, then we end up making the worst mistake of all. We end up not being able to return to our original station, going home to the Father. Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, is sponsored by us. What? We sponsor ourselves? Is that even legal? Check us out on Amazon. You can have access to the titles of Pedagogue, the youth ministry book by Lonnie Jones, Cognitive Spiritual Development, a Christ-centered approach to spiritual self-esteem, Grappling with Life, Controlling Your Inside Space, a small essay using the principles of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to talk about psychological and emotional self-defense, If I Were a Mouse, a children's book written and illustrated by Lonnie Jones, and then The Selfish Reel, a very short story about a decision. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel to see archived lessons and presentations from across the country, some videos with rope tricks and knots. Don't forget to visit the Facebook page 550 Guys to learn about the little rope men that we make and that we invented and that we make. And then be sure to click like, subscribe, and share. This is Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.